Are you powerful? And how powerful are you? Maybe sometimes you feel powerful and sometimes you don't, and you probably can't define what power is accurately. It's totally normal for sometimes you to feel powerful and sometimes not. But what is power exactly? Well, even scientists and social psychologists disagree about this. Not everyone agrees about what power is or isn't. Not everyone agrees on a definition. Is power influence, the ability to get other people to do what you want, or is power more like autonomy? As I said, even psychologists and researchers disagree about this. But today, we'll try to answer this question, resorting to studies, and I'll tell you a scientific story about the psychology of power. My name is Lourenço, and this is the psychology of everything. There's something I need to mention before answering the question of what power is. In social psychology, we often talk about social power. Not power in general, whatever that means, but social power. We call it social power because the word social means that there are other people involved. And so, just keep that in your mind while we tackle this. The traditional way to define power in psychology has been as influence, the ability to control others, the ability to get others to do what you want. I call this traditional because first, I don't really like traditional things, and because it is actually a tradition since 1959 when two authors, French and Raven, defined it as influence without really having a justification for it other than it seems appropriate. Everyone started adopting this definition without really putting it to the test. But this definition is how, in modern research, power is conceptualized. But let me give you examples so that you can understand better what influence really means. So, in research, in order to study power, a lot of times researchers need to make people feel powerful. But how do they do this? How do they make them feel powerful? Well, a lot of times, the way they do this is just by simply asking people to remember a time when they had control or influence over others. This doesn't seem very complicated. You just need to go to the laboratory, write a story about yourself, and that's it. That's done. However, this has some problems because you're not really in a situation of power and you're just remembering it, although it seems to work to make people feel powerful. But a lot of times, researchers try to do this in a more practical way. What do I mean by this? They literally ask participants, this is kind of amazing, they literally ask participants to become a manager. They put two participants in a room, one of them is the manager or the boss, and the other is not. What this does is to create an artificial situation where a person has influence over the other. A lot of times the person in control, the person that is supposed to be powerful, can decide what the other person will do or decide what rewards the other person will have. And so this is influence. This is how traditionally power has been conceptualized in psychology, in social psychology. And so this is the answer. We've done it, right? This is totally the answer. Dude, come on, wait. You can't just do this to them. You can't lie to them. But it's influence. I just told them this is the traditional way to... Please stop. Please. Just tell them about autonomy. Tell them about autonomy, please. Okay, I'll tell them. Okay. Can you please leave? How do you know? Who are you? Get out of my videos. Tell them about autonomy, though. Tell them. Okay. Autonomy. So we talked about influence, and that's the traditional way of looking at power. But that definition has always left me a little bit unsatisfied because not everything in our lives is about controlling others, even when it comes to the social domain. And luckily, a group of authors shared the same concerns as I did, and so they decided to study power as autonomy. They decided to study whether participants, whether people, had a greater desire for autonomy or influence and how that related to power. So they put participants in a situation in an imaginary company where they worked and they got a promotion. They got a pay raise, obviously. But there were two kinds of possible promotions they could choose from. One of them implied more influence and the other one implied more autonomy. The situation where they got more influence was like this. They were told that they would get a pay raise and that they would have a boss over them that would sometimes tell them what to do. But they would also have subordinates whom they could control. This means that they wouldn't have that much autonomy because they would have a boss above them, but they would have a lot more influence. The other situation that they could choose from was a little bit different. This would garner autonomy but not influence. They would not have a manager or a boss. They could set their own goals and their times and all of those. But they would not have subordinates and they therefore wouldn't have influence over anybody. What do you think they chose? Yeah, they chose the autonomy situation. While this alone doesn't show that power is autonomy, the other studies they did kind of confirm that. While those studies are a little bit complex to define and to describe right now, I will tell you their conclusion. And their conclusion was this. The current results suggest that people are not primarily interested in influencing others, but instead seek power to gain autonomy from the influence of others. The desire for power is born not of a desire to be the master of others, but to be master of one's own fate and domain. This is inspiring. This is much more inspiring than the average scientific article. So what does this really tell us? That power may not be influence, but yes, autonomy. We found out what power is. It's autonomy. It's not influence. Okay, you can go now. Dude, come on. I told you to talk about autonomy, but you gotta explain them everything, not just this. Come on, don't. I'm not gonna tell them about the complexities of psychological research. Okay? This is a YouTube video. I can just tell them. They're gonna understand. It's fine. It's okay. Let's go. Come on, do it. Get out. Get out. Don't come back. Okay. I'm not coming back. Bye. Okay. The next chapter. Sometimes psychology is amazing. And studying psychology is amazing, and trying to understand how people think and act and why they do these things is really amazing. But in order to do that, a lot of times scientists need to simplify things. They need to define concepts in a way that they can be measured and quantified and all of that. And that is really important. I'm not denying that importance, and that is crucial for the understanding of the human mind. But as probably you and I both know, human mind is a complex matter, and it is made up of a lot of different things and interactions between a lot of different things. And sometimes science in general and psychology forgets that side, forgets the individuality of people, and sometimes we need to define concepts in a way that they can be measured in the laboratory. And that, I think, is what happened to power. Defining influence or defining autonomy is not that hard. You can just do it and you can measure it and you can manipulate it in a laboratory. But maybe, just maybe, that's not exactly what power is. And again, luckily, I'm not the only one to say this. In 2016, a very influential author, Felicia Prato, defined power as, pay attention now, pay attention. This is really complex stuff, pay attention. As one's ability to achieve their own goals and desires. What? Didn't I say it was complex? This is so simple. But just pay attention. If we say that power is everyone's individual ability to achieve their own goals and objectives, we would need to know, to study this in a laboratory, what do they want? What every single person wants. And while that is not impossible, that is much harder than just simply defining power as influence or even autonomy. Power The feeling of power, sense of power, you feeling empowered, depends on your own ability, on your perception of your own ability to achieve the things that you want, the things that you desire most, your goals. And that is not incompatible with what we just said in the previous 2 chapters. Sometimes to achieve what you want, you need to influence others. Imagine you're a soccer coach, and you need to influence your players. You need to control them. You need to get them to do what you want for you to achieve your goals. But if you are a chess player, you don't want to influence anybody. You want to be autonomous. You want to be able to decide for yourself what you want to do. I give the examples of sports because it's much easier to understand, but in our daily lives, this also happens. We want stuff, we have goals, and those goals are different for everyone. Sometimes power for you will be autonomy, and sometimes it will be influence. What matters is how you feel about your own ability to achieve your goals. So, going back to the first question I asked in this video, are you powerful? Now, you can answer this a little bit more objectively. Well, do you feel able to achieve what you want? Do you feel capable? Do you have the tools that you need to achieve your own goals? That ultimately is what matters, not the specificity of influence versus autonomy. So, I hope that by knowing a little bit more about power, you feel a little bit more empowered and powerful. In my opinion, knowledge is very empowering. And as a matter of fact, I make videos that empower people. So, if you like this and you want to feel more empowered, just hit the like button and subscribe if you want. Take care and see you next time.